There we go. Hello, Elif. Hello, Niveen. How are you?
Hello,
Hello.
everyone. Hi.
Hi. Welcome.
Hi. How are you?
Hello, hello.
Yeah. Very good, very good. We're really happy to have you here with us.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. All right, I think what we'll do is we'll start and people will start trickling in. And anyways, we are recording it, so no worries. We can always rewatch it afterwards. So I will start. Hello, and my name is Dunya Chamberlain. Welcome to this live discussion organized by the Innovating Teachers Academy. I'm a teacher and the founder of INTA. Before we begin, a quick note. So this session is being recorded so that teachers who couldn't attend the live can watch it later. Also, if you have any questions during the discussion, please feel free to write them in the chat, and we'll take them at the end to answer a few of them during our Q&A section. INTA was born from a simple idea. Teachers thrive when they are connected, supported, and inspired by one another. At INTA, we offer a caring and inspiring community of teachers. We offer you some training sessions by teachers and for you, the teachers, focused on real classroom challenges. We also give you ready-to-use teaching resources to enrich your lessons. And finally, like today, we offer you some interactive live discussion on the themes we all encounter in our classrooms. Tonight, I'm delighted to welcome our exceptional guest, Aimée Skidmore, a teaching and learning coach, classroom teacher, and thought partner with nearly 30 years of experience. She supports educators who want their students to think more independently and take real responsibility for their learning. Her work is practical, warm, and rooted in every classroom life. Thank you for being here with us today, Aimée.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited that everyone's joining. Should we get started?
Yes, let me just say, so today's topic is student ownership in action, and we will look at how small practical routines can significantly boost students' independence. So the floor is yours, Aimée, and thank you already in advance.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, everyone. Please clear your desk, close your tabs. If you've been teaching all day, you have a ton of tabs open on your desktop, all those things that have been waiting for you. Bring yourself here for this hour and make sure you have something to write with. If you feel like it and you want to drop where you teach or what you teach in the chat, go for it. Tonight is a thinking space, not just a learning session. Think of it like your thought sanctuary, a place where you can do your best thinking and really be working on your classroom practice. You're bringing so much expertise of your own classroom, your own context, your content, and I'm here to offer a few tools that you can plug into your classroom, whether you are leading from inside the classroom or you're leading a group of teachers. So welcome, welcome. We're going to start with something a little bit light. If you've been teaching all day, you kind of know how this feels. Pick the dog that matches your teacher mood right now. Maybe you're number 3, or maybe you're hanging on by a thread like poor number 6. And maybe you're in between. I know that for me, in one day, I can be all of these. And that's the teacher's life, right? So if you can find my dog on there, bonus to you. So just drop in the chat. How are you feeling today? Perfect. Let me see if I can see. Can I see the chat? Yes, I can. Perfect. 7, 6, 8s. 7. Seven's like the face before. Are we at winter break yet? These faces tell a bigger story because teaching is not just the planning and the marking and all that stuff. It's energy that we use to keep everything running smoothly. And when our students don't step in, that energy all comes from us. So I'm really excited that you're here. I'm excited to share my work with you and to hear about how that's landing in your classes. For me today, I'm gonna say I'm not that tired. I'm gonna say I'm a little bit number 8, a little bit curious. How's this next piece gonna look for us? Here's the big shift that I want you to hold tonight. Most of you are here because your teaching feels heavier than it should. You're planning, you're explaining, you're reminding, and you're like tweaking those lessons within an inch of their life. I'm so exhausted. I'm throwing everything I've got at these kids. I'm throwing everything into this job, into this profession. Meanwhile, students are stalled, they're avoiding work. Maybe they're only moving for grades. And it's really easy to feel hurt by that and think, okay, they just don't care. And that's what most of us have been told that the problem is: apathetic, lazy, unmotivated. And I've used some of these words myself. Not academic is one I've heard a lot. Transactional. They only move when I give them a reward for it. I want to offer a different lens. Most of our students have almost no real choice in school. Even when they choose the course that they're in, they rarely choose the content, the pace, or the way it runs. We hold most of that autonomy. We decide what happens, when it happens, and how it happens. And no one, to be fair, nobody actually showed us what to do, like how to make space for students to take real responsibility, and then how to teach them what to do in that space if we even make it. Let me give you an example, a little bit more practical. If somebody told you that from next week, your full-time job is restoring antique furniture and building things with wood that you found in some dirty old barn, and you never chose that, and you were told this is how you're going to spend most of your valuable time, nobody would call you lazy for not caring about the springs and how you tie them in the old way, or whether the joints of the chair are fitting together. Now, this is my idea of a relaxing weekend, but if you hate it, you're not interested, it's not that you're apathetic, you just didn't choose it. Yet we do that to kids all the time. We force the subject, and then we call them apathetic when they're not instantly 100% invested and engaged. And of course, because we care, we try to fix it. So we do what caring teachers do. We fill that space. We plan, we explain, we rescue, we even entertain. There I am with my little pointer playing around. We think if I just work harder, plan better lessons, make it more engaging, they will finally come with me. We become the engine of everything. The more we carry, the less they have to. That's not apathy or laziness. That's dependence. They wait, we step in, and they learn to lean back. If that loop feels familiar to you, type engine into the chat. I'm sure we are all having this at some point. So if that feels familiar to you, type engine into the chat. That's what you feel like. Tonight is about interrupting that loop. I'm going to show you how to step back, and then how to invite students into that space that you've made. Here's what you're going to get today. First, a fresh way to see student ownership, to think about that, so it feels possible with the students that you have right now in the timetable you teach right now, today. Second, a clearer picture of what is making your teaching feel heavy, where students are actually ready to take on more of the load. And third, 2 key strategies that you can try straight away tomorrow to shift some of that work back to students without redoing your own course. No planning. You just walk in and do it tomorrow. So I want to turn this over to you. Take a moment This is where you're going to need something to write with. Take a moment and write down one outcome that would make this session a wild success for you. Maybe that's a feeling that you're going to have, a small shift, or a concrete move that you want to walk away with, ready to try. Whatever it is, write down something that you're like, this was worth it to give up my evening to come and be here today. Take a moment to write that down. You do not need to put that in the chat. That's for you. Okay, a little bit about myself. I'm Aimée Skidmore. I am a teaching and learning coach and a learning partner for school leaders, curriculum coordinators, for their teams, as Dunya was saying. I'm also a secondary teacher. I'm in the classroom. I teach media and communications to grade 12, and I teach Langen Lit to IG2 students. I'm also a podcast co-host. Jacob, my friend and colleague, we host International Teacher Staff Room, which is getting letters from teachers and dishing out some advice to them. And I'm also an EdTech, PedTech specialist. This is an area of expertise for me and an area. Oh, my dog. My dog just barked. Sorry about that. It's an area of passion and expertise, trying to use tech, AI, all types of tools to bring student ownership into my classroom. So um, that's who I am. And I didn't build this work because suddenly I had figured it all out. I built it because I hit a wall in my own classroom. Let me take you back to the moment that I realized something had to change. I'm going to come off of this kind of weird shared screen so you can see just me. Let me hope I don't mess this just mess this up. Okay. Did I come off a shared screen? Can you just see my face now? Perfect. Okay, good. I want to talk to you. I want to see you listening to this little story I'm going to tell you because thank you. Thank you for the hearts. Okay. Here's how it looks like how it looked like in my classroom. So I was the kind of teacher that did everything, like super everything. Administrators were like, "Oh, go see MA in her classroom," right? When my students were writing a poetry analysis essay, I would walk them through every single step. I modeled paragraphs, thesis statements, brainstorming. That was after we did the like read it together in class, right? So we were drafting, we peer reviewed. I even filmed like these extra video tutorials and stuffed my learning management system with like checklists and scaffolds and practice tasks. The tech support, beautiful, all right? Of course, I wanted to support my students. I wanted them to succeed and feel prepared for those external exams that were coming up. And if I just gave them enough, I thought they were going to step in and engage. But what actually happened, I would remind them of the steps, and then I'd be like, okay, off you go. And then I'd sit back like, okay, they're going to go right now. And they would sit and wait. And I'm like, okay, go do the thing. And then the questions would start. And you know what that looks like. Once one person asks a question in a quiet room where people are working, it's like the plague. Everybody starts to ask questions. Is this for a grade? What do we have to write? How do I start? Can you just tell me if this is good? Can you just tell me this part? Is this good? Can you please just tell me? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I felt like I was dragging that whole class up a hill. In the breaks, I would go to my co-teacher's door, like hover around there. Her students would be working quietly and I'd be standing in the doorway with my coffee cup, just like rolling my eyes as far back in my head as they could go. And I would say things to her like, why are they so useless? Like, why are they so bone idle? They can't do anything without me. I did all this stuff and they only care if it's for a grade. And underneath those jokes and pithy comments was contempt and irritation. It was a kind of shame because I was saying those things, but I didn't like the teacher I was becoming. I was resentful of my students. I was resentful of my admin, the system, the exam system. And that was hard. I'm curious for you all if any of that sounds uncomfortably familiar. If it does, drop a little heart in the chat so I know that I'm not alone in that, that you're not alone in that kind of feeling, right? It's true. It's important that we name those feelings. I think sometimes in education, people they expect us to be so altruistic that we don't have those feelings, those shameful feelings, but we do. I almost left the profession because of it. I realized that those comments were on a repeat, that all I was saying about my students was that in the teacher's room to my colleagues. And I started getting that sinking feeling like, okay, the joy's gone. I'm tired. I'm doing everything. I don't know where to go next, but I can't keep doing this. And I did really had a really dark time of almost leaving the profession because of it. After a lot of reflection, a lot of work, I realized that I had to face a truth, and this was a really hard truth to face. I came to the realization that I am the only variable in the entire thing that I truly could control. That was me, my choices, how much space I left for my students, what I taught them to do in that space. And I had never actually asked them, like, what's going on here, guys? I had not questioned my own part in this whole pattern, in this dynamic that had, been set up in my classroom. So a new question started to nag me. And that question was, what if the problem is not lazy students, but the way I'm holding the room and carrying the work? That idea, that question has been chasing me ever since in my own classroom and now in the rooms of the teachers I work with. And it is the heartbeat of what we're going to be exploring tonight. So let's get to it. See what we got. Okay. Now I got to get back to screen sharing. Here we go. Where is my, hold on.
Can we ask a question, Emmy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you ever feel when you were making all these when you were doing all this work for the students that you were did you ever have the feeling that if you stopped doing that, you were going to be compared to other people who were still doing that from the students' point of view?
Oh yeah.
Like I always felt
I
like
still have it.
if I didn't provide enough materials and cutouts and do all of these things, all this scaffolding that was very visible, not necessarily that they needed it. Did you ever find that like the students would then say, "Oh, so and so provides all this, and Mr. Tommy doesn't do anything"?
Absolutely. And I still have it today because that's one of the things I talk about with teachers. Like, what do we do when we start getting pushback? And sometimes that pushback comes from the students. Sometimes it comes from parents and this kind of pressure to perform. So
Yep.
yes,
I love that when
absolutely.
you say the perform because I feel like so much of that is a performance.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you feel terribly guilty,
Yeah.
right? So let me flip that for you. That's what we're going to do tonight is flip it so that you can feel confident in saying, no, this is the right way. I am not going to continue to enable my students to stay where they are. I am going to create space and invite them into that space. And I'm going to teach them what to do in that space. That's the issue is that sometimes this doesn't work because we're like, okay, step back. Because I've done that too. Okay, I'm not doing nothing. I'm not telling them anything. And we'll just see how you go with that. That doesn't work either because they don't
Yeah.
know. They've been trained in a lifetime of compliance and control. So they don't know what to do in that space. They're kids. Thank you. Thanks, Tommy. All right, let's be real. This approach is not for everybody. You know it's for you if you're tired of carrying all that responsibility for learning by yourself. You want students to think, engage, and take ownership without ditching all your content unit plans. You've already planned stuff. I know you've planned months in advance, so you're not going to have to get rid of that. You're open to trying small shifts that work over the long term. More you practice, routine, the change will happen. And you want a clear way to build ownership, especially in those exam-driven courses where there's a lot of pressure to perform for an external exam. Okay, so if you see yourself here, good. You're my people. You're in the right place. This is exactly for you. It's not for you if you want a quick fix without making any changes to your teaching. You can't just take the PDF and go drop it in. If you truly believe in your heart of hearts that students can't take responsibility for their own learning because that's just how it is and that's kids these days, probably not the place for you. If you're not willing to let go of some of the control that you have over your classroom so students can grow, probably not for you. So if you're my people, if you're here with me, you're ready to go, let's go. Drop shift in the chat so we can move forward. I'm not looking at the chat. I'm gonna let Brock do that because I can't see. Okay, are we ready? Let's do it. Perfect. Okay, here's the big lens that I use for this work. I call it the student ownership guide, and I kind of think of learning like a bike ride. Yes, I'm a cyclist. This is my metaphor. I'm a lit teacher. This is the way it goes. So I think of it like a bike ride. Different parts of the bike have to work together, or the ride feels like really wobbly. I'm, like the pedals, and you got to have balance, and you got to steer, and you've got to have all these things working together. Your body has to be in the right place, right? I'm not going to teach that whole framework tonight. I just want you to know that there's a bigger picture behind the two moves that we're going to be looking at. But for tonight, ownership is very simple. It's who's doing the thinking and who's managing the learning. There are 4 parts to this full guide, and we're going to touch on 2 of them because that's directly related to the strategies, and it's kind of where your heavy load shows up first. I'm not going to show you anything you haven't heard before. You've learned this in teacher school. You've learned this in your classroom, but it's nice to remind ourselves and help to reconnect to the underneath why these things work. And when we keep these elements in the forefront of our work, of our thinking and planning, we can't go wrong because they're essential to building ownership. There are 4 of them. Engagement, which I see as like the balance on the bike, staying upright. Self-regulation, which is keeping moving, pedaling. The rigor is, are you in the right gear? Are you pedaling right for where you need to go, not too hard, not too soft? And then the motivation, which is kind of the fuel of the ride, and that's made up of certain elements as well. All 4 of these matter, and they are what create student ownership, but we're going to focus on 2: engagement and self-regulation. Engagement is who's doing the thinking, the talking, and the deciding. I want to say something about engagement here because so often we hear engagement, engagement. We see it everywhere. We see it all over EduSpeak and all this stuff. It's not the engagement like when your administrator comes by and looks in your classroom and is like, well, not everybody was engaged in the task. Engagement for me is not you do what I told you to do and everybody's doing the thing I told you to do. Engagement is students doing the thinking, talking, and deciding. Okay. Sorry, that flipped out of there. Self-regulation is another piece, and it's all about who manages the time, the tasks, the emotions, and the next steps. Sort of like the setting of goals, tracking of progress, right? That's that pedaling. Think about your last class that you were teaching, whether that was today or a while ago. Who was really managing the work? Who was doing the thinking and talking and deciding? Okay, if your honest answer to that is me, that's my job, That's what it feels like when you're running beside the bike, holding up that back seat so it doesn't tip over, terrified to let go. Anybody who's taught a child how to ride a bike knows that. Holding on, pushing, please just keep upright. All right. If you don't let go, they're not going to go, and you can't let go because you're terrified they're going to fall. All right. Our role as teachers is to model the strategies and build routines so that those students can carry the motion forward, even when their motivation is dipped and when their tasks are becoming harder. So that's kind of what lives behind. So let's talk about what we're going to do with those two concepts. The first strategy I want to talk to you about is shifting the thinking load from the teacher to the student. This is a huge mindset shift. It is fundamental to all of this type of work that I do. So many of us carry a quiet belief that sounds a little bit like this. If I do not lead every step, nothing's going to happen. If I'm out of class, if I'm out sick, nothing happens in my class. If I step away, nothing happens. So we end up stepping in. We do the mental heavy lifting. We explain before they even have time to think. We fill the silence with talk. We answer our own questions, and we jump in the moment they hesitate. We rescue them from the hard parts of learning. And this comes from an incredibly good place. We care. We want things to go smoothly. Isn't that my job, to help young people? But the consequence of that over time, over years, and I've been doing this 30 years, over years, the consequence is brutal for our students. They get really good at waiting for us. They stop trying to think for themselves. They just sit back, right? And we walk out of class drained and burnt to a crisp because we've done the mental work for 20 plus people. No wonder we're exhausted. So how do we fix it? The mental shift for you here is key and fundamental to this. I want you to start tracking who's actually doing the work in your classroom. In your next lesson, do a quiet count. Who talks more, you or your students? Who's asking the questions? Who decides what happens next? Who has a thinking job right now? If it's mostly you, this is not a verdict. It's not a judgment. It's a signal. It's a signal you cannot ignore. It tells you that the bike is off balance and the load is sitting on you. All right. The way I do this, I use a piece of paper. I still do it sometimes when I feel like ownership is slipping in my class. Put that paper next to me while I'm teaching. Every time I hear them talk, tick. Every time I'm talking, tick, tick, me, them, like that. Very, very, very simply and very quick. It gives me an accurate view of my classroom. We all think we know what's going on in our classroom, but we really don't, because you cannot teach and monitor at the same time in the level that you need to be able to see that. So you really want to be getting that accurate view. Even better, record yourself. Make a video of yourself teaching, make a audio recording of yourself teaching, and count and look at the data that is there. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, and then you're going to have to fix it. But for this strategy, I don't want you to fix it yet. I just want you to go away, try this out, and see what you see. If you're like super speedy, like me, who learned something and is like, try it, I want to do everything. If you do want to try to fix it, you can do something like this. And this is done in the moment that you notice it. So you notice it, and then you're going to respond with, okay? So for example, if I'm talking along and I'm asking questions and then the kids are answering and I'm like, you know what? I feel a bit tired here because I'm doing all the hard thinking. Like I'm working really hard here and I get the feeling that they're not. I might flip it back to them and say, okay, well, what makes you say that? How did you come to that answer? What's the best counter argument to what Bobby said? Ask one student to explain to another, or ask your student to make a prediction. Well, what do you think is going to happen based on that? Or make a choice. Comparison. How does this look compared to something you already know? So you want to try to shift it gently back to them, like a little hot potato, but not throwing it, just kind of gently press it back on them. They may be surprised at first, but the more you do it, the better it's going to get. Okay. Think back to your last lesson. Again, think about one of those things, the thinking, the talking, the deciding, who's doing more, right? If you can drop in the chat, me or my students, that would be great. And we can see kind of what's going on here. You really want to be tracking that mental work, letting students think, even if it's awkward, and stepping back so that they can step in. All right. So that's the first thing. If you can do that, if you can get that, you're ready and started on this kind of work already. But that's an important first step. The second one, and if you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer them, and we're going to hold those to the end so you can ask at the end. Yeah, so we'll do those questions at the end. I think that's what we agreed. Here's the second pattern, right? This is all about shifting accountability. This one's super powerful. I love this. From monitoring everything to getting those kids to self-regulate. We carry another belief, as wonderful teachers that we are. If I don't check everything, they're not going to do it. That's like the homework trap, right? So we chase them down. We send reminders. We double check every detail. We hover over that grade book. And it comes from the correct place because we've been burnt before. We've given it to them and they did nothing. So now we got to tighten the grip and we fall back on pressure, awarding points for doing stuff, constantly checking, and checking. And the consequence is that we end up carrying all that accountability. Now, it is true. We have it. We have our grades. We have our reports. We are accountable to higher powers, right? But the issue here is that students never have to manage their own stuff, their own time, their own effort, their own progress. They don't even have to manage their own emotions. And I'm not sure if tech has been a friend here or a foe, because the tech that we use makes it so that everything's at a fingertip. Like a grade is sitting there on your learning management system. Everyone can see everything. And you're responsible for filling all that. Whereas kids just sit back and say, what's my grade, right? Real accountability for learning does not come from us monitoring every move. It comes from students learning to check on themselves. Our job is to build in those simple routines and let them name what they carried and what they're going to be carrying next. One easy way to start is responsibility reflection. I do this at the end of a class. I do this maybe once a week with each of my classes. Here's how it looks. You're going to ask a question at the end of class. What did you take responsibility for today? Or where did you have to think hard today? And then you're going to add another question to it. What will you take responsibility for tomorrow? This could be about content, like the learning that they're doing. They could be about a habit of mind, like collaboration, like some kind of student behavior that you had been working on, collaboration, negotiation, communication, something like this. It could be on focus. What part of being focused did you take responsibility for today? Or it could be time management. It doesn't matter. You make it yours. Whatever you are seeing that they're weak in, or what you've been like, I've been seeing them do this a lot and I want them to start thinking about that. So you can qualify these, or you can just leave them as they are. What matters is the habit of self-checking without you being involved. On the bike metaphor there, that's them pedaling on their own. We would never think to pedal for our students, right? But we sit there and push from behind and hold on to the back of the seat, right? This is the self-regulation piece that's so important for our students to be practicing now. Let me show you what that looks like in my class. This is my favorite part, looking at student stuff. Okay. This is what started showing up in my classroom after students were doing their responsibility reflection for a little while. They're not new at this. Here's some quick exit notes that I use a Microsoft form so I can go and read them later, but you can do this in a notebook. They can have a running tally of that. You can do it in sticky notes, whatever you like. Today, I took responsibility for making my own twist and interpreting a poem and trusting it. Typically, I end up trusting someone else's ideas rather than my own. This is Alex. He does a lot of internet sleuthing, right? In fear of being wrong. However, today I took aspects of someone else's ideas and thoughts through their analysis and added my own, creating my own unique personal view and response to the poem. That's directly related to a learning objective for their exam. They have to have a personal response. So we're talking about, I'm like, you can't get a personal response if you keep using other people's stuff, i.e. internet, AI, or other people, or me. So look at what he came up with there. Here's another one. Today, I took responsibility in thinking more critically and outside of the box when it came to setting my goals, because I feel that sometimes I struggle in the parts of the paper, exam paper, where other people do much better. I did this by looking at past papers and tests that had much better results. And another way I plan to improve is to be more open with the teacher and ask where I made the mistake or what I did wrong. If that isn't a plan of attack for improvement, I don't know what is. And that comes at the end of class, last couple minutes. Here's the answers to the other question. What are you going to do tomorrow? And this student was answering based on, we were doing reading partnerships, so they had to be prepared, right? I will be responsible by knowing my book well and being ready to discuss different ideas, events, and themes. I will have had annotated the story and the important moments so that the minimum amount of time is lost looking for events. Homework assignment. I didn't even have to assign it. And you can check in on this if you want, or you don't have to. You can be like, well, what happened to the being prepped for today? Because that's what you said, you were going to have an annotated text and you said you were going to be ready for this. They've just set their own homework and I don't have to check it. Wonderful. Here's another one. I take responsibility, I will be, for engaging with my partner rather than staying silent. I will encourage my partner to interact and have stimulating, on-topic conversations. That's a self-correction, right? From a student who he and his partner might have been fooling around or whatever. So this is students. Like, that's what happens when you start asking them things. They're naming their own decisions, their own effort, their own next steps. And it's what happens when we stop carrying all the thinking and all the accountability and start giving students real space to own their own learning ride, right? Okay. Before I talk about what next steps are for you, because you've just learned two things here. One is shifting that accountability using the responsibility reflection and getting a real accurate view of what's going on in your classroom by observing yourself, really looking at that, right? So before we go into, okay, so what do I do next? What do I do with these things? Let me show you what this ownership work looks like in real classrooms, real students, real teachers. These are comments from two teachers who tried versions of what we did tonight. And I want to slow down here because these are not my words telling you how great this ownership stuff is. Take a look at what Nicholas says. He's an English teacher here in Switzerland, and he joined in one of my courses because he was like, I'm doing fine, but I'm a little blah. Like, I don't know, I need a shakeup. He says, handing over some of the learning to the students has been the most useful thing. I have already seen the improvement in engagement and participation within my class. And that's using strategies like these two. Here's Sylvanus, a young science teacher from Kenya. He's super energetic, very engaging, very student-centered. What surprised me most was how quickly things began to change when I gave students more agency. Students became more reflective and more invested, and I found myself re-energized. What I love here is that they're not saying, oh, what a clever strategy that I have. They're saying, I saw what I was doing. I changed it. My students stepped up. This is the work. You notice the pattern, you make a key shift in your practice, and students will surprise you. Huh? I got more of those. Do we have time for more? I think we do. Here. That's Nicholas. Did I get the right? Oh, sorry. Nope. We'll leave it at that. If you're sitting here thinking, okay, I want to feel that kind of confidence. I want to see my students being carrying more of this. There are a couple ways you can go from here. One option is super simple. Take what we did tonight, keep going on your own. I'm going to give you a little tool that you can use. I'm going to drop it into the chat at the end as a thank you for being here live. You can take that and go do these two things. You're going to notice who's doing the thinking, who's managing, and you're going to respond in the moment, right? You can end your class with a responsibility reflection. If you want, I'm also happy to send you more of these strategies. You'll have all the stuff in one place. And I know you are gifted, talented, devoted teachers. You're going to run with it and you're going to make it work perfectly. It's going to be great. But option two is you do this work with support inside a small group of teachers who are trying the same thing at the same time that you are. This is what I created Student Ownership in Action class, this course. It's a 3-part live course for secondary teachers who want their students to carry more of that cognitive load. They don't want to lose content. They don't want to lose time or burn out. No crispy critters, right? It's why I partner with Dunya and Innovating Teachers Academy, because they're doing work that matters. And I want this to be in the hands of teachers. In this course, we're going to take the kind of moves that we did tonight and we're going to build them into real routines over a few weeks with time. This is the important part, time to talk honestly about your classroom. What happens when it gets messy, when they start pushing back, when, as Tommy said, you got people being like, well, why are you stepping back? Where's all the materials? You're not doing anything. That's your job. When you get that pushback, what do you do with that? You're not going to do this in isolation. And you're not going to be white knuckling it in through your over functioning that's keeping your students in that passive space, right? Another reason why I'm offering this course through Innovating Teachers Academy is because Dunya has such a wonderful community of teachers and experts in that are going to be supporting the whole movement. So it should be a really beautiful space to do your best work. It'll be your thought sanctuary where you can be your best teaching. I'm excited for that. And I know that so many of you are already at capacity. We're heading into a difficult time of the year. We're tired. And the hardest conversations I have with the teachers I work with the teachers that I teach with, are the ones where they're like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I can't keep teaching like this. And then they don't give themselves the support. And then I have the same conversation with them and it just like spiraling down. So this course is my way of giving you a clear container to try the work without adding like chaos to your week. This slips really nicely into a weekly schedule so you can be participating in that. Okay. Sorry about this, go back. If you already know this is a yes, like, yes, I'm in, let's do it, and you want to get started already, you can go direct to the course page. We're going to start in February. And I know that Dunya and Brock, they're going to drop that link into the chat. So you can go click on that and check out the course. And they'll probably talk about this after I'm done blah blahing here. So you can go and check that out for yourself. You'll find the dates, the price, the details, all of that. If you're still like, I'm a maybe, and you want to look at your own context first, I would love to talk with you. I'm offering some short, no pressure clarity calls. We're going to look at your classroom. We'll talk about your students. What are your constraints? What are your worries? What do you want in your classroom? And the next step might be this student ownership and action course, but it might not be. It might be something else. Either way, you're going to leave with a clear picture of what to try next. So if you do want to talk to me on a call, I'm happy to do that. And I'm going to drop that link to book a call with me in the chat in just a second. Okay. Whether or not you join the course, I want tonight's work to matter in your classroom this week. So before we wrap, I want you to name your MVP. What is the most valuable point that you're taking away from tonight? Maybe it's the idea of tracking who's doing the thinking. Maybe it's this realization that it's not kids these days. It's not apathy, it's dependence. Or maybe it's the responsibility reflection. When you're ready, drop a short word or phrase into the chat. And this is a good way to help you hold on to the thing that matters most for you. It also helps me to see what's landing for teachers like you. Okay, so just take a minute to write down your MVP and drop that in the chat. I hope that came through. Okay. Yeah. Tommy's MVP, it's learned behavior from the students. Absolutely. They're not bad learners. They learn exactly what we teach them. Be compliant. Do the thing I told you to do, right? Yeah. The reality of your own classroom. So many of us, so many teachers I work with tell me they've never seen themselves teach. How do you know what's going on in your room? Try it. You absolutely do not have to carry that load yourself. Our job is to help students learn. It's not to do everything. And that pressure, the one that Tommy was talking about at the beginning, like the pressure to perform teaching, the way it looks from the outside, we feel like we have to. And we're not getting the results that we always want. So must be us. We must have to do more, better lessons, more jazzy, more entertaining, right? Okay. I want you to also take a minute, check back with that intention that you said at the beginning. At the beginning, I asked you to write down something that if you left this session this evening and that happened for you, it would be wildly successful. Think about that. You do not have to put that in the chat. But did something move for you even a little bit? Are you leaving with what you had hoped that you were getting out of this? Because you stuck with me live, I'm going to give you a little gift to go away with. Okay. This is the in-class ownership check. Let me see if I can get it off my Tech City. This is the in-class ownership check. This is what I use when I feel ownership slipping and I want to get a good idea of what's happening in my classroom. So I will print this out, I will put it on my desk, and I will start observing that. I will use it. And then that has those nice little like light shifts back to people, back to the students. So you can be like, okay, I'm doing too much talking. Let me get them to do it. I'm doing too much deciding. Let me get them to do it. It's one of the resources that people like the most. So there it is for you. Free for you. Do we have questions? Or Dunya, do you want to talk to people about anything?
No, I mean, this was very clear. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. It was simple, it was clear. I loved how you just gave us two shifts to focus on, and especially that we can take it tomorrow to our classroom and try it right away. I also loved how you gave us concrete examples so we can really imagine what they are and we can see what we're doing and are we what we want to change. I loved also the testimonials first from your students to see how they reflected on their learning.
Mm.
And what I like really is it's not reflecting on the strategy, like you said. It's really on their learning or the changes that happened. Same with the
Mhm.
testimonials from the teachers. I think it's very powerful when we start looking at the changes. So applying strategies and then looking at the changes that come from those strategies. So thank you. That was really wonderful. I do want to add, Aimée has her course, Student Ownership in Action, coming up starting in February. But also with this course, what you get is you get a discussion group attached to it. This means that all the participants of the course will have access to this discussion group where you can ask questions. It's a safe place for you to say, well, you know what, I tried this and this did not, the result that I expected did not happen. Did anybody else try this? How come it did not happen? And then we can start a conversation together. Because I mean, we're all teachers, we have all our brains, we're all trying it in different settings with different students. And I think it's nice when, like I saw someone said in the comments, that sometimes you feel like you're carrying the whole load. You feel a little bit on your own. Well, that discussion group allows you to share. So share what's working, what's not working, asking you questions, just finding support if you're really, I mean, this is the end of the school year, we're tired. Maybe you can just go in the discussion group and say, I'm tired. Can anybody give me maybe an idea for tomorrow? I don't have any more ideas, and then you can help each other. So I think it's a nice thing to have with the course.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Do
I was
people have
wondering, are there
questions?
any questions or anybody who, because we didn't take them throughout the presentation, but anybody has any questions for Aimée? You're very lucky to have her here with you, and she can answer all your questions.
There's one in the chat box there
I
All
can't
right,
see.
let's have a look.
from Elif.
From Elif. Can you see it, Aimée?
Beginner level language learners, yeah, they are much more dependent, right? I'm gonna be difficult, Elif, and I'm gonna ask you to tell me what you think works. You're the expert of English language learners. How, like, what would it look like if they were taking some kind of reflection about something that they were taking on for themselves? What could they talk about? Like, what's one thing you're working on in your class that you'd want them to say, am I doing this thing? And how well am I doing this thing?
Yeah, for example, pronunciation.
Okay.
Let's say pronunciation.
So that's a piece of content that you want them to get right, right? You're like, I
Yeah,
want you to
yeah.
do it, right? And what could a question look like around responsibility? Like, what responsibility did you take for that skill that I want you to be learning? And so when you think about it that way, what does that look like? What does you not waiting for me and you taking something on of your own responsibility for that? What could that look like for them? Maybe it's I I don't know. What do you guys think? In terms of pronunciation, I sought out maybe some technical tools to help me with my pronunciation instead of waiting for my teacher to do it. Like, we know now that there's so much good stuff here with, like, you can speak it, you can hear it, you can listen it. So instead of just waiting for someone to tell me how to pronounce something, I went out and found that for myself, right? And if they
Yeah.
can't express it because they don't have the language, who cares? Let them express it in their native language. We don't care, because what you're training here is self-regulation. If self-regulation
Yeah.
happens in your native language, that's fine, because it's a higher order skill, right? It's reflective, it's metacognitive. You can't expect kids who are just learning the language, the target language, to then express all of those deep thoughts in the target language. The key here is, what am I allowing them, to do with their own understanding of their learning. And if they can articulate that in their own language, you don't even have to know what that is.
I think you could also try working with like students with learning disabilities as artwork as well to express themselves, and then using that artwork as a way into the learning the words that go along with that artwork that they're expressing, because that might bring up some language that you might not have thought to teach them, but if they're pointing to a picture or they're drawing something that expresses how they're feeling, then you might be able to use that as a way to teach them how to use those words and then speak them
Mm.
and say them.
I think it's a good point, like using alternate ways for students to be able to express their knowledge or their skill or their learning. Like that is super important. Multiple pathways to that same result. Another thing to think about, Elif, is what is the student learning behavior that you expect to see around pronunciation? Like when you see a student doing that and working on that, and it's what you're looking for, what is that? And then ask them to reflect, did you do that thing? Or did you not do that thing? And if you didn't do that thing, what do you need to be able to do that thing? So focus on what is the student productive behaviors that I'm looking for that tells me that they are doing that thing, and then build your question around that. I can, I have used this in different ways. I have said, just give me what you've taken responsibility for. Very open in general. And you can see kids will talk about the content, like um that poetry thing we were doing, or they're going to talk about them setting goals. They're going to pick something in the class that day that they connected with, and it may not be the thing that you're thinking about. If you got a kid with behavior problems, they may be like, I took responsibility for not getting out of my seat and poking somebody. That could be that simple, but you can also tailor them. I want you to reflect on what responsibility you took for contributing to the class discussion today, because that's something I'm working on. Everyone contributes. There's a no opt-out contribution in my class. So what did you do today that added to the class? So make it very tailored or leave it open. But get in your head first, what do you want them to be able to do? And I think that will lead you to what's the question I need to ask them. I
Thank you
hope
so
that
much.
helps. I hope that
Yeah,
helps.
yeah, it helps. Thank you.
Students can do amazing things when we back up and we make space for them. And we have to teach them what to do in the space that we've made for them. It's not intuitive. They don't know. Here is a beautiful space for you to be all you can be, and I'm going to teach you what to do in that space. Right? And then the content comes.
Do you do you find that I feel like this theme is extends outside of the classroom so much to kids these days, where it's not just uh, teachers doing the heavy lifting in the classroom, but it's parents doing the heavy lifting at home. It's it just goes, it's everywhere.
Yeah, why not? Absolutely. The rescuing, right?
Yeah,
We are rescuing them from things they don't need to be rescued
yeah,
from.
yeah,
It's the wrestling, it's the struggle that causes the learning to happen.
yeah,
We need to stand by them,
yeah.
hold their hand while they're struggling, maybe dry some tears while they're struggling. We're here for you, but we're not going to rescue you from it. And I now I can't unsee it. I see it everywhere now. Like when I was watching a performance today of some older students that were doing a scene, and a teacher asked a question afterwards to one of my students, and they like popped right in when they saw that the student was struggling. They felt so bad for that student. They didn't mean to put them on a spot. They didn't mean to make it hard for them. And then they jumped right in and rescued him out of it, and let him come out, as opposed to making it maybe a softer way in, a different way to approach the question. And so I was just observing that, like, okay, how could we have done that so that that student can still answer, but answer in a way that says we expect that, but we're going to be here with you for that. So Yeah, absolutely. Come with me on the course. I'm excited to work with teachers and
I appreciate how you said that it's that people teachers do this out of a sense of caring and not, you know,
mm,
it's a sense of caring. It's not like we don't think you can do it, but it's hard to see kids struggle.
I've had teachers ask me, but that's my job. You're telling me not to do my job. No, I'm not. And I get when you're talking about that, Tommy, I get pretty emotional because that's what caused all this in the first place. I was caring so much and I was so hurt when it wasn't working for me. And I was like, all right, something's got to change. What's going to change here? And I've tried both, step back and do nothing. I'm done with you. I'm done with you guys. I do everything for you. It's on you now. That didn't work. That led to more misery on my part and very nasty feelings about my students. This is the only thing that's worked for me consistently with all types of students.
We have a question from Veracruz in the
Yeah,
chat. Can you
go.
find it? It's a little bit above. I'd also like to know how to really implement this shift in a class with slow learners, and when it is I am starting a very new topic to kids who are just transitioning into a new class or subject.
Mm. I'm not sure which shift, if it's the thinking or the responsibility reflection. There are other strategies that I use for more beginning things. Um, that first strategy is really a shift for you to be noticing, and the responsibility reflection, it's not easy for students. That is asking them to do something that they're not used to doing. And when they push back on you, it's not because they don't want to do it. They don't know how. They don't know what it looks like. So you might have to provide models for them. Like the ones I showed you, make some up and then show that to them and say, this is what it looks like. Can you find a statement like that for yourself? Give them sentence starters to do that responsibility reflection. But that one's a hard one. That was a pretty advanced, but I have some other strategies. If you reach out to me, I know you follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram and stuff. So if you want, I will talk to you about that. I can show you some that are beginner, like more for um, really giving students, who are struggling, taking that ownership, giving them a little bit more support in that. Things like starting the class off with what I call the silent start, which is that you make them take the first step in the class for that day. So instead of walking in and being like, here's what we're doing, here's the agenda, here's the objectives, here's what you do, 1, 2, 3, da, 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 let me tell you all about it. See if you can find a way for them to start. I want you to start the engine, and then I will come in and move you further along. So find a way to do that. And I have some ideas for you if you want. But it's slow at first. That's why I was saying that you're going to implement these things. You have to train them to do them. And that can be slow. And so it can sometimes feel like you're slowing down and you start panicking. So you pull back, keep at it, because once they learn the strategy, they're going to keep doing, it's going to go speedy through. And then the content's learned at a heavier way. I'm not sure if I answered all of your questions on that, but transitioning to a new class, a new subject. Um, I don't know if that helped you. If not, just reach out to me. I know I see you on LinkedIn, so we can have a little chat through there.
That was very important what you said, that we need to take it slow and um, look at it as an investment. You're investing the time at the beginning to teach them the strategies so they understand how it works, they understand how to do it best and where you get the best results. And then they get used to the routines. And afterwards, you won't have to explain them anymore. You just say, okay, this is what we're doing, and there they go. So it feels at the beginning like you're never going to be able to finish your program, or you're just stressed because it's taking a lot of time, but it really pays
Mm,
off
mm,
once they get it.
absolutely. And I'm not surprised at these questions, actually. I'm hearing questions about language learners. I'm hearing questions about students with learning differences. These are the ones that most of us struggle with, like we're like, how do we do this? All of the strategies that I teach in my work are based in universal design for learning. They are made for all learners. So no matter what level you have, who you have in your classroom, everyone has equal access to these ways of being, and almost like a mindset, a different way of understanding what's expected of them. You just have to enter a different way, and you have to give more options for students to express their learning and understanding, multiple pathways in. So all of my strategies have that, and these are just two of the little ones that I have, but I have other ones too. You'll learn them on the course if you come.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for coming, everyone. It's been great to see you. Please reach out, whether you are joining up on the course, whether you want to just have a chat with me beforehand to see if it's the right thing for you. I'm happy to do that. I'm here for you. You can get those links here in the chat. If you're watching on replay, you can connect with us through our socials. You see me on LinkedIn. Junia's on LinkedIn, Innovating Teachers Academy. You've got the website. Just go in and have a look and reach out to us, and we're here for you.
And I will write you an email tomorrow with all the information. So you will have also Inta's email. And I'd like to finish by saying thank you again. I mean, this was wonderful. It was a lovely evening and great topic and great discussions. And I feel very motivated to go and try these strategies. And so thank you to all for coming, for your questions. And
Thank
I
you.
hope we'll see you soon.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good
Bye.
evening.
You too. Bye.